Well, good morning and welcome to this Oracle series video, video number 1. I thought I would do an Oracle series using the Urtext of A Course in Miracles, and I've got my copy of the Urtext here, which it's kind of, it's seen better days. It's been well loved and well used, and this is one of the first 50 that was printed out when we got a hold of the original manuscript, the original text of A Course in Miracles back in the days when we were going through the copyright shenanigans with FIP, and Judge Sweet ruled that there was to be no copyright on the course. So very sacred text. I would have liked to have actually made more copies of this, but I think you can just buy it online now. It's sort of old hat these days, but this one's just sort of been hanging around, and I've coloured it in and drawn glasses on Jesus on the front, a bit sacrilegious, and put some daisy chain there. But anyway, the idea of the oracle, the idea of trusting and that all things are already known, and to be able to tap into that knowledge where all things are already known and trust it and relate to it as completely relevant to present awareness, present situation, present relationship, everything. Like there's nothing left out. Whatever you need it for, it's there for that. And one of the things that a lot of people do, and I did used to do, I don't anymore because I don't really read the course anymore, but it's a means to an end, you know. But one of the things I used to do, and a lot of people do, would be just sometimes you'd have this sitting beside your bed or wherever you would normally read it, and you just come along and you would open it up and you would just read a page, and that would be perfect for whatever whatever was going on in the moment. There's not a moment, right? Hear this. There's not a moment that goes by in the day where God is not calling upon your forgiveness to save you, not calling upon your forgiveness to help release you from the miscreative definitions on life that you've allowed yourself to adopt, which perpetuate the dream, the frame of reference that you find yourself in the physical world, in the physical experience. The whole idea that at no single instant does the body exist at all, well, that's true. But it's because I believe that my body does exist, that I am this body in this world, that I need this book and these lessons. This doesn't have the lessons, by the way. This is just the text. So that I can true up and bring myself from my miscreative references that the world seems to reflect back to me as my projections, and heal myself of those by including them back in, or accepting atonement for myself in the situations in which I find myself seemingly concerned about them in any way or shape or form, to bring about a singular state of mind that we call inner peace, and then perfect that. And so there's not a moment during the day where God's voice doesn't cease to call upon my forgiveness to save me. Simply means that in every single instant, my salvation is being held out to me. And no matter what seems to be going on or being presented in the world, in my body-to-world relationship, it's always going to be perfect. And it's always going to be an opportunity for teaching and learning. And the idea that I teach to learn and teach as I learn, or learn as I teach, better, is something that continues on until finally the body is laid aside, right? Or the memory of God returns. For me, it's a little different. Not in a I'm special way, but in a way where anyone who's had the experience or the memory of God return to them first then has to conclude or finish their mind training or their purification process, right? And I've spoken to many people in the last 25, 30 years who have had that experience first, have had a profound, non-physical, formless union experience with God, with the creative source of all that is, and then find themselves back here in the world. Without this, without the Course in Miracles and the lessons, that becomes a very untenable kind of position to be in, because you have then all of a sudden two reference points for reality in your mind. One out here that you think is reality, and the one that you've just experienced that absolutely shows you that it is reality, it is your truth, and this is just an illusion. And without some comprehensive mind training to ground that experience that you've just had and to give it context and relevance to this, to making this purposeful out here, the physical world, and your experience with the cause and effect relationships within it, you'll simply go mad. The mind just simply can't bridge the gap between two realities, because the idea of purpose is missing. And the idea of the idea of a comprehensive or a true purpose is missing. I've met many people who have a misconstrued sense of purpose about things, and keep my finger on my nose, because when I first had that experience, I thought it was just business as usual. And I mean, it's one thing Lao Tzu says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Well, you can just chop wood, carry water if you want, but there's a greater assistance that you can be to the powers above that are orchestrating the divine happening that we call salvation. And if you're familiar with the text of this book, it tells you that I'm in need of teachers. Is Jesus talking? I'm in need of teachers, people to carry this message and this curriculum to others and to be representatives of it on earth. That gives you a purpose, which the experience of illumination automatically relieves you from any purpose of being in the world whatsoever, even if you've contrived one for yourself. It makes it meaningless and pointless, which leaves you in this kind of abyss, this void, limbo. And there's a lot to it. You can't explain it all in one video. It has to be your own lived experience. It has to be your own adventure, your own quest, your own crusade. Jesus actually calls it a crusade in the Urtext here. But I'm going to open a page at random. Anyone who's familiar with the idea there's no such thing as free will be laughing with me about the idea of random. But I'm going to open a page and simply read it. All you have to do is close your eyes and listen. Right? And I say close your eyes because the visual distraction is sort of 90% of what distraction passes for in the world. And then you only have to deal with your mental monologue as the distraction. But if you are actually just listening, not listening to the words, just listening, then the vibratory frequency that these words are representing can permeate into your psyche, into your consciousness, because that's where they actually are now, but operating on a different level, if you like, or operating in a different paradigm within your mind, where the Christ mind in you is, and is what you are, actually, and begins to activate that. Right, so just listening. And I love the, I probably can't quote it exactly, but Alan Watts. Right, if you haven't heard of Alan Watts, W-A-T-T-S, beautiful teacher, very Zen-minded, but he has this lovely thing, and it's been a lovely little thing that he says, and it's been used in a lot of trance and house music as a voiceover, where he says, simply focus on what you're hearing. Don't try to make sense of it. Your mind will do that by itself. Don't try to understand it. Your mind will do that by itself. Simply listen, and you'll begin to realize that what you're hearing in the outside world, or hearing from me, let's say, as an outside entity, and what you're hearing in your mind, they come together. Right? That's where it gets in, where that definition between what I'm listening to as something separate from me out there talking to me and what I'm hearing in my mind becomes actually the one thing, because it actually is the one thing. All right, you ready? Here we go. I don't think there's anything else I need to offer in that idea. All right, close your eyes for a second. I'm just going to read one page. Just shuffle it up a bit. Here we go. All right, I'll just start at the first paragraph. That's a full paragraph. In the calm light of truth, let us recognize that you believe you have crucified God's Son. You have not admitted this terrible secret because you still wish to crucify him if you could find him. Yet the wish has hidden him from you because it is very fearful, and you are afraid to find him. You have handled this wish to kill yourself by not knowing who you are and identifying with something else. You have projected guilt blindly and indiscriminately, but you have not uncovered its source. For the ego does want to kill you, and if you identify with it, you must believe its goal is yours. We once said that the crucifixion is the symbol of the ego. When it was confronted with real guiltlessness of God's Son, it did attempt to kill him. And the reason it gave was that guiltlessness is blasphemous to God. To the ego is God. And guiltlessness must be interpreted as the final guilt which fully justifies murder. You do not yet understand that all your fear of this course stems ultimately from this interpretation. But if you will consider your reactions to it, you will become increasingly convinced that this is so. This course has explicitly stated that its goal for you is happiness and peace, yet you are afraid of it. You have been told again and again that it will make you free, yet you react as if it is trying to imprison you. Most of the time you dismiss it, but you do not dismiss the ego's thought system. You have seen its results and you still lack faith in it. You must then believe that by not learning the course, you are protecting yourself, and you do not realize that it is only your guiltlessness that can protect you. The atonement has always been interpreted as the release from guilt, and this is correct if it is understood. Yet, even when I have interpreted it for you, you have rejected it and have not accepted it for yourself. Finger on your nose. You have recognized the futility of the ego and its offerings, but though you do not want it, you will not look upon the alternative with gladness. You are afraid of redemption and you believe it will kill you. Make no mistake about the depth of your fear, for you believe that in the presence of truth, you will turn on yourself and destroy yourself. Little children, this is not so. Your guilty secret is nothing, and if you will but bring it to light, the light will dispel it, and then no dark cloud will remain between you and the remembrance of your Father, for you will remember his guiltless Son, who did not die because he is immortal, and you will see that you were redeemed with him, and have never been separated from him. In this understanding lies your remembering, for it is the recognition of love without fear. There will be great joy in heaven on your homecoming, and the joy will be yours, for the redeemed Son of Man is the guiltless Son of God, and to recognize him is your redemption. You can open your eyes again. Now, in the beginning, in that first paragraph, you probably, when I was reading it, you're probably going, what does that mean? What is he talking about? Right? He's saying you don't want to recognize your atonement. You don't want the world, but you don't want to recognize your atonement. You don't want what the ego offers you because you have somehow seen its ridiculous nothingness that it offers, but yet you still don't want, because you still want to retain the wish to kill, because you're afraid to go beyond it and experience what direct love is, right? And that sounds preposterous, right? It sounds, why would I be afraid of love? Why would I be afraid of love? You like love. I love love. Love's great. Everybody wants to feel more love. But there's the problem. Everybody wants to feel more love as they've experienced it within the framework of the earthly experience, within the world experience, not as it is unconditionally. All right, once you've experienced unconditional love, you'll know the truth of love. Until then, love is relative and subject to how it is that you think love ought to be according to the ideas of yourself that you hold, that are all going to be false. There's only one true idea of you, and it's in your mind somewhere, and it's been protected, as it said in there. Right? The wish has been hidden from you because it's very fearful, and you are afraid to find him. All right, now, I want to just talk about, I was just having a conversation with somebody last night who's currently in hospital and going through all sorts of stuff, and we were talking about atonement. And she was projecting onto somebody else in the dream ideas of this person's bossy or this person's whatever, and we flipped that around, like in the teaching learning process we were having, flipped that around to see that bossy was a trigger that I'm activating in here in my relationship with that person, right? But it came out in the course of the conversation, in the afterglow of that, thank God I'm starting to see this clearly, because there's nothing in the world I want. And that was the definitive. There's nothing in the world that I want, right? That's an absolute. It's not enough, right? And it's what it says in here. You still don't want to love yourself in truth, right? It's not enough. It's one thing to see that there's nothing in the world that you want, but do you want God? Because God as an idea of something that you're aware of in the world is also part of there's nothing in the world that I want. I don't know if you can hear that, right? The world is symbolic of ideas, including ideas about God. So there's a fundamental admission, I don't want anything in the world, inclusive of all of my thoughts about God, because none of them actually underlie what God actually is. It's always subject to change and the nature of reinterpretation every time a new concept comes to present me with a higher level of learning. Right? And you kind of get closer and closer to the sun, and eventually you realize you're like Icarus, and you've got to fly into the sun. You've got to let your wings be burnt, and you've got to fall. You've got to die to your old self. But you've got to want God, and it's not that there's a want. I mean, in the Hindu text, let go of want and desire and lust and all of that. Let all that stuff go. But first you have to plumb the depths of it. You've got to see that you actually want that in the first place before you can let it go. Otherwise you're letting go in insincerity. There's a kind of, well, I don't even know if I feel lust or want or desire. Is that true for me just because this book says it? Is that what my experience is? Do I believe in God? It's very easy to live in the superficial level of your consciousness and just exist on a very unchallenging kind of frequency, superficial relationships, superficial conversations, superficial world experience. Stay in your comfort zone, never get out, never get challenged, never get pushed around by the world, all of that sort of thing, especially if you live in the first world. If you live in the third world, that's probably not quite so easy. But there's this perception that because the world is seen as something separate from God, the ideas that I have about God also in the world are separate from the world, right? But those ideas that I hold about God exist within the framework of my world experience. It's the ego guessing, right? I'm guessing about what I think God is, and I've got certain beliefs. All those beliefs are rubbish. Right? You've got to let them all go. If you haven't had direct union, if you haven't had that memory returned to you, I mean, it's in you already, and at some point you have had it returned to you because we're simply looking at something, revisiting something that's already over, with the idea of helping to collapse it, you know, or close the continuum. You've already been saved. You've already been evacuated from the mine shaft. Let's say you fell down a mine shaft. You've already been evacuated from the mine shaft. Now we're going back and we're going to just clog up that mine shaft so no one else can fall down it. And that's essentially what the Course in Miracles and the idea of salvation is. We're collapsing time, alpha to omega, here and now. It's a much broader, and I had a beautiful analogy last night going through my mind, and I was almost going to jump up out of bed and make a video about it. Now it's gone, doesn't matter. But it's like, I want God, but I don't want God on my own terms, because that's where you have to get to. It's like, I don't know what God is. I don't know. I've got all these ideas. I don't want them either. I don't even want a Course in Miracles. I don't want any of it, right? And one of the things that Jesus says in the Course is, forget this course. Come with holy, empty hands unto your God. That's it. Can't ask for better than that. Little children, this is not so. This is not so. There is no world. Peace.